Counting the
cost of unmedicated natural birth.
Hi, Angie. Nice to meet you. It's first time meeting you.
Hi. Nice to meet you too.
Okay.
Hi, Angie. We saw your Facebook post about unmedicated labor, which is very, very revolutionary. And I have a lot of people around me that are very, very worried about our decision to have a medicated natural birth. So, what made you take that path when probably many people could be opposed to the idea?
Well, out of my 3 births, I always wanted to have an unmedicated natural birth, natural as in vaginal birth. My first one, I guess it didn't work out. I ended up with a C-section, and then that made me more determined the second time to try again. It made me, because my experience was really, really bad. Because, anyways, I can talk about that a bit later. But the reasons why, well, my husband was very supportive. So if he wasn't so supportive, we wouldn't have been able to do it, I think. Because every drug that you take, it passes on to the baby. Yes, they say it's safe. And I'm not saying that it's never okay to have, it's awful to have drugs in any circumstance. They can save lives. C-sections save lives, no doubt about it. But even epidurals, they can be really hurtful. I mean, very helpful for some people. But the more research I did, the more I realized that having an epidural, in many cases, can slow down labor. I wanted to give birth vaginally, and in order to give birth vaginally with less complications, less interventions, better recovery, all these things that I said, okay, unmedicated was the healthiest way. So, I just didn't want to go down, okay, now you start by getting medicated, and then, which means, I guess, the epidural, and then it leads to another intervention, and then another intervention, and then it leads to antibiotics, which I believe are not good for the gut. It's not good for the baby. So just the real reason we did it is because it's for the benefit of the baby. You know, if my birth is going to be uncomplicated, and it's not an emergency situation, then going drug-free, antibiotic-free, all these things is the best way to go, the way God made it, right?
It sounds like you were more passionate about this decision than your husband was. How much your husband was aware of the ramification of the...
I think myself, I'm just definitely a bit more expressive as a person, but my husband was definitely on board. Like, everything we discussed, like, we did as a team. I would research about everything. Okay, should we do this or not? When we talked about vaccines, we talked about the different types of interventions there were, whether we should get a doctor or a midwife. I don't know what you have in Korea, but there's that choice you have to make here. Everything we discussed, and I did most of the research, but he definitely gave his opinions too, and we made the decisions together. And he's very supportive of what I want. But he also says what he thinks. He believes, that God made people just like the animals. All the animals give birth.
Yeah.
Natural.
That's right. That's right.
No C-section.
Well,
It's true.
Birth is a natural process.
Yeah.
It's just like walking,
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's inconvenient that you have to go through some pain, right?
Yeah.
But he wanted the best in terms of the health, and for that, the best in terms of health for me and for the baby was having no drugs and having a vaginal delivery, if possible. Yeah.
So now I'm curious
about a situation where there's extreme emergencies.
So now I'm curious about your first birth. How did you end up getting a C-section?
Okay, so I planned a home birth. I had a midwife. So I planned the unmedicated natural birth. I watched all the YouTube videos and cried, look how beautiful the birth is. I planned everything. I tried to do. I read books. I read several books, but I didn't read that one. I recommended to you. Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. I did not read that one for my first baby. But then when I went into labor, it was a bit more difficult than I expected. I had back labor. I was exhausted after a few days of labor. And then I was transferred to the hospital because when my water broke, my water was green, which means that baby had pooped inside.
Oh.
So that's an automatic transfer to the hospital here in our health system. So once I got to the hospital, it just happened one after another. That's what, like I'm telling you. First, they said, okay, you know what? You're tired. Why don't you get the epidural?
Yeah.
I said, fine. I'll do it because I was so tired and I was in pain. My back was killing me.
That's crazy.
And when you're not confident in what you can do, and when you're not confident in your decision, then whatever they suggest, you just think, okay, fine, I'll do it. Because your mental state is so important in childbirth. So yeah, I got the epidural, and then it was okay for a bit, but then later on, because the labor wasn't progressing, because many times epidural can cause your labor to slow down.
Yeah.
And that's not all the time, but many times. It's a known thing of epidurals. So my labor was slow, and because it was slow, and plus I couldn't move around, I started walking, but then I was lying down on the bed. And movement helps birth. Standing up, moving around, it helps that child, the baby descend, right? I wasn't able to do that, so I was laying down.
Oh my.
That probably slowed down labor even more. And then it was hours and hours. I think it was probably like maybe 12 hours or something. And then okay, labor is too slow. Now let's give you Pitocin, which is a synthetic hormone that makes your uterus contract. It's very commonly used. So then I got my second drug. See, that's like the first one, the epidural. It led to Pitocin for the second one. And then they would increase the dose, after a while. Working, labor wasn't progressing fast enough. And then my cervix, it was open till 10 centimeters. And it was just kind of stuck there. It was like right before 10 centimeters. It was just a tiny little bit that had to open up, which wasn't opening. And they said his head wasn't positioned very well, and it was just stuck there for hours. So then there were like some fluctuations in the heart rate, which is normal to a certain degree. When it fluctuates too much at a certain point, like there's a certain pattern they look for, then they say, okay, this is not good. You're not progressing. Let's go for a C-section. And by that time, my mental state was so desperate. I felt so trapped, desperate, upset. I felt like a failure already, even though it wasn't even over. That when they said, okay, let's go for a C-section, we were just like, yeah, just do it. I was so scared of a C-section before, but at that point, after days of being tired and all the failures, I thought I already felt like a failure, which I don't think you should feel like. But I was in such a bad mental state that we just said, yeah, whatever it takes to just end this, And then I had a C-section, but my C-section did not go well either.
Wow.
So because I think the drug, the anesthesia, it wasn't working properly. So when they were like, cutting and sewing me up, I was feeling more than I should have. I didn't feel like everything. Of course, it was working to some extent, but I felt like the needles going in and out. I felt a lot of pain, and it was a very, very traumatic experience for me.
I can't even imagine that.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I almost passed out, I think, like when my blood pressure started dropping when I was on the operating table. And I was saying, I can't breathe. Then they had to give me another drug because my blood pressure, like,
oh my.
To help my blood pressure get it back up, right? So there's all these things that happened. That's just the second time I got pregnant, I said, there's no way I'm just going to go for a C-section. Some people talk about the C-section like it's the easy way out. And some people have a great C-section. Praise the Lord for that. But for me, it was an awful experience. I said, you know what? Natural birth has got to be better.
Oh, that's crazy.
So that's what happened. It's like that thing. One thing leads to another. It's a chain reaction. It doesn't happen to everyone. Some people have a great vaginal birth with an epidural. But for me, everything that could have went wrong pretty much went wrong for me.
I read the blog that you wrote, and it was very, very fascinating. I thought I was like reading like a movie script or something. It was very, very dramatic, and I have so many questions right now. I mean, why in the world did it take days, not hours?
Yeah, like for your first birth, like.
So my baby was positioned in a way that it's called back labor, where your back hurts instead of your front. And so the positioning wasn't that great, and it was early labor. So there's a phase of labor called early labor, and there's a phase called active labor. So the active labor, I believe, was a little less than 24 hours, which is still long, but it's not uncommon for a first-time mother, right? Who's
You said uncommon.
Pardon?
You said uncommon.
It's not uncommon.
It's not
So
not uncommon. Okay.
Yeah, when you're first-time mom, your body's never done it before. Everything's tight, everything's closed, you know. And if you're not in the right state of mind,
I see.
your body can't relax as well.
I see.
So, yeah, so I had back labor for like 2 days at home, and then that was the early labor. But I was still exhausted from that because I couldn't sleep for like 2 days. And then once I got to the hospital for real active labor, that lasted almost a day as well.
I see.
I think it was probably around 20 hours. Yeah.
So if you didn't have like back pain and you were able to sleep, then you would have been in the right mental condition, right? To be able to just give birth naturally, would you say, or?
Maybe. I think the back labor really confused me. Like I thought, I'm not very good with pain management. I have to say, some people think like, whatever, wow, she must have a really great pain tolerance. I don't. I'm a wimp when it comes to pain. So that first time I gave birth and I had back labor, I thought it was real labor. I was like, I called the midwife. I said, I have labor. And she's like, no, you're not. This is early labor. And she's like, I can tell. She even came to see me. I was like, no way. If this is early labor, what is real labor like? But then, you see, I was scared. I was confused. Even, I don't know. I didn't have, I guess, I wasn't very well prepared. I was in the right state of mind. But with my second and third babies, even though the pain was more intense because I didn't have any drugs, I was more relaxed. I loved the pain because I knew what it was doing. I trusted my body. I was confident, you know. Because my state of mind was different, I was able to, the labor progressed better, I believe.
Okay.
Well, that's very fascinating because you did say you read a lot of books for the first one.
Yeah, I did a lot of.
But you still freaked out. And from my short experience of watching several YouTube videos, it said back labor is the worst thing you can possibly do to increase pain. So my second question is, why did the back labor happen if you did the research at the time?
Well, back labor is something that I chose. It's just because of the position of the baby that the
baby's
head.
I see.
Skull is pushing against a certain part of your body that makes your back hurt. So it just was unfortunate.
Okay. I thought everybody should be moving around and doing all these crazy things, and just back thing is really hurting, and I was just wondering about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a type of labor that happens depending on the baby's position. But they say there's some things you can do to kind of prevent back labor, like prepare your baby for optimal positioning. I don't know if it works. It didn't work for me.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah.
So then the book that you recommended to Jaehwa, that's the most helpful book that you've read.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, I had a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after a C-section. After reading that book, it helped me, and having a doula. I gave that book to both of my sister-in-laws before they had their first babies. They both had unmedicated vaginal births. And my other friend who had a C-section just like me, and the doctors told her she cannot deliver vaginally because her hips are too small. That's what they told her. But she read that book that I gave her. I lent it to her. And then she had a great unmedicated vaginal birth.
Wow.
So that book, this woman is very, very experienced.
Wow.
And I think it just is the perfect book to recommend to anyone who's having
Natural
who's
birth.
having a baby, either first or second or whatever.
I see.
Who wants a vaginal birth?
I see. Wow.
Yeah, so I had my first C-section, and I was traumatized by that. And then my second one, I had a doula because I didn't feel confident. I was gonna attempt a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after C-section. And I wasn't gonna do it in the hospital either. See, I had such a bad experience at the hospital. I want to stay away from the hospital.
Yeah.
Just being there made me feel worried and anxious.
I see.
So I had it with a midwife at a birth center. And then after I did that, I felt so accomplished. I felt like, wow, I can't believe I did that. It was like the biggest accomplishment I did in my life. You know, the challenge that you go through when you're giving birth to your own baby, and God, you know, it was a blessing. It was truly a blessing. We prayed, and God gave us the strength to do it. And then for our third birth, we did it in the hospital, but it was also unmedicated. I was afraid that if I was going to be in the hospital, I would end up getting the epidural because it's so available. It's right there.
It's right
ask for it and bring it.
Yeah.
But, you know, God was good, and we're able to birth twins, breech. Breech means they're up. Yeah. They didn't come head first. They came, the bum came up first.
Oh, the bum came out first.
Yeah. So usually that's an automatic C-section. Even if you have one baby that's breech, they'll do a C-section.
Wow.
Like,
wow.
Almost all the time.
Almost all.
Wow.
Yeah. I had both babies were breech. I had twins. And plus I had a previous C-section. So I had all these complications, but God was good, you know, I found the perfect doctor, and the nurses were very nice, and we prayed, and everything worked out.
Wow, that's awesome. So how did the baby end up coming like in the optimal position at the end?
I'm not an expert in that, honestly, but it's only 4%. I believe only 4% of babies turn out to be breech.
Oh, okay.
Most of them are head down. Most of them are normal, you know. It's just that in my situation, they turned breech, and then there was not enough space for them to move after. They got too big because there was 2 of them, right? Yeah. So then, yeah, honestly, it's usually an automatic C-section, even for twins. Even if you have both twins head down, many people get C-sections for twins. And then they were breech, and then plus I was having another VBAC. So there were like 3 major factors that would have pointed to a C-section. But, you know, praise the Lord, it worked out very, very well.
Yeah. So did you end up having a doula also for your this current this last one?
No, my husband was my doula.
Your husband was your doula.
And because of COVID restrictions, you weren't allowed to have another person there with you.
I see.
Yeah, but for my second one, when I was attempting to have vaginal birth for the first time after my C-section, I got a doula because I needed that support. I recognized that I didn't know. I didn't think I would be able to handle it without a doula. So I really needed that emotional support. And she was amazing. Like, she prepared me. She told me what to expect. And when she came to the birth, she was next to me the entire time, holding me, talking to me, telling me, you're doing it, this is normal. Hearing these things over and over again, because you start freaking out. How long is this going to last? Is this normal? Is something progressing? Why is this happening? You have all these questions when things are happening, and when you have someone constantly telling you you're doing a great job, just keep doing what you're doing, your body's working, saying all these things there, it really helps.
That's true.
So, wow. I do suggest, if it's possible, to consider getting a doula, a good one that's because, like, for example, the second time I didn't really feel like I needed one because I already been through it, and my husband was really supportive. But the first time we were like for my second baby, which was my first vaginal birth, I needed it. I talked to my midwife. I said, should I get a doula or not? She's like, if you feel unconfident and you feel like you need one, go get one. Yeah. So I did.
Okay. So would it have helped if you had gotten a doula the first time? Do you think it would have helped? Yeah.
Yeah, like, my midwife was okay. When I look back, I think she wasn't the best, like my second midwife was way better than my first birth midwife. But they're like a health practitioner. They're like your doctor, kind of. But the doula is different. The doula is there to support you.
Yeah.
So she, she was kind of like the health figure. But if I had had a doula there to support me and give me the emotional and mental support I needed, yeah, I think, or like, for example, some people, they have their mother, right? Or their aunt there, or their sister, or someone they're close to. That's kind of like their doula. For me, I was like, I don't have, my mom had passed away. I didn't have anybody really, except my husband. But my husband doesn't know what he's doing either. He's new, first time, right? So I think for people who don't have support, it's something to consider.
This is super fascinating. I mean, so the third delivery was at the hospital. Why?
Yeah.
Why was it at the hospital?
So what happened was we moved to a different province that only had midwives in one area, like the only one, the major city, and we don't live there. So at first I found out, okay, there's no midwife that's available to me. But it didn't matter because midwives don't even handle twins. Once they find out it's twins, you automatically go to a doctor. Yeah. So it didn't matter.
Oh, I see.
First I was stressed. I said, Lord, I don't want to have a doctor. I want to have a midwife. But it ended up being twins, and I said, okay, Lord, I was so terrified of the hospital and having many interventions and having another C-section that I actually considered giving birth without a doctor. It's called unassisted or unassisted birth, where people just, or free birth, people just give birth on their own at home. I even, just for a little bit of time, like, I just considered, I thought, okay, what are the risks of this? Should I think about it or not? And then I found a doctor, to monitor my pregnancy and stuff. And there's no option. You have to go to the hospital. Oh, I see. You either choose to have a free birth at home, or you give birth in the car on the way, or you give birth in the hospital. That's what it is. So I said, you know what, in my situation, yes, I'm afraid of the hospital, but I need to focus on changing my mentality. Yeah. And be in the hospital where at least something goes wrong, because I had twins. That at least in an emergency, then I'll be there. Yeah. But if I had a single baby, I might have done something differently. Yeah.
Wow, you totally need to write a book or something. Man, this is so like amazing. Every single delivery is very interesting to hear about.
So how did you find the doctor that was so supportive, like that supported you?
Oh man, it's a miracle. Like, it's a small town. The town that I gave birth in only has 17,000 people. Wow. Only has 3 doctors. Wow. Only 3 obstetricians. Wow. And 2 of them are more experienced. The one I found, the first time I met her, I told my husband, I don't know if I like her. She sounds too medical. But that's how doctors are, right? Yeah. I didn't realize how supportive she was until the end, when I found out we had breech babies, and I kept pushing for a vaginal birth. And then she wanted to know, like, basically she told me that in Canada, they tell the doctors to recommend a C-section. That's true. So she knows she's older. She knows how to deliver breech babies. She's done it many, many times. But because of the risks involved and the things that can go wrong, and to protect their butts, basically from, something, they just do C-section, right? So she told me that she's told to recommend C-section, but she knows how to deliver breech. But she only told me that after I told her like 3 times. For 3 appointments, every time I saw her, she said, so, baby still breech. So what is it, a C-section? And I was like, no, doctor, I don't want a C-section. And then we'd sit down and talk. And the second appointment, the next time it'd be the same thing. So, C-section? Like, no. And then after she realized, she's like, okay, I see that you're determined to have a vaginal birth, right? There was no more questions. Like, when she realized that I'm really gonna go for it, then we made our plan and we did it.
Wow. So what was?
So it's really a miracle.
Yeah.
So what was the
Not
pressure?
many doctors.
So what was the pressure that she was experiencing to try to convince you to do the C-section, or was it the medical condition?
It was just.
Well, almost all the births, I'd say, the majority of the births with the breech babies are automatic C-sections before you even go into labor. So that's what they do here. A lot of the doctors don't even know how to deliver breech. So it's the protocol. It's what they're recommended to do by the Canadian Association,
Okay.
whatever the governing body is. That's what they're recommended to do. So even though she knew how to deliver breech, she came into this healthcare system and she's recommended to do that because there are things that can go wrong for sure. In any birth, there are some things that can go wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if your doctor is experienced and knows how to deal with it, or your midwife or whoever you're doing, if you know what to do, then for me it was crazy to do a C-section without even trying to have a vaginal birth.
Yeah.
For me, I said, Lord, if I try vaginal birth and something goes wrong and I get a C-section, I'm just gonna accept it.
Yeah.
I'll just say, okay, I tried, right?
Mm-hmm.
But without even trying, just to go straight for a C-section, a routine C-section. C-section is major surgery. It's not just like, oh yeah, it's so safe. You're literally cut open,
Yeah.
right? You have to recover from that.
Yeah.
So, and I had a C-section before, and it was not good. Some people
Yeah.
have great C-sections. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do a routine C-section just because there are certain risks. If my doctor can manage those risks, then I'm going to go for a vaginal birth. I'll try. And look, everything turned out fine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
That's amazing. So you were conscious the whole time that you were delivering, right? Like while you were giving birth to the twins. Like.
Oh, as in I felt everything? Yeah.
Yeah, you felt everything, and you saw what the doctor was doing. Like the doctor.
You don't really see much because down there, your angle, and you have, especially if you have twins, your tummy is huge.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
so you can't really see. I'm just like asking the nurses and asking my husband, so what happened? Like, what's going on? What are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just.
You feel everything.
Oh, you feel everything. Because I'm wondering if like they try to move your belly to move the baby's head to the optimal position so that their butt, because you said their butts were kind of sticking out instead of their heads.
So the first baby, the butt came up first. Yeah. During the birth they don't do that. They didn't do that. For a breech birth, it's not recommended to.
So they're
just. You basically save the baby to give birth on its own. Yeah, but sometimes people do try to turn their baby around before they go into the birth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you can't do that when you have twins because it's not safe. So once I just kept praying. Every ultrasound I went to, I said, Lord, please, head down, please make the baby turn. And every time I go to ultrasound, I ask, so is it head down or is it breech? And they would say, oh, still breech. So at one point I had to say, I'm giving birth. I'm gonna give birth to a breech baby. I'm not. I just had to accept the fact that he probably wasn't gonna turn.
I see. So then, so your baby literally came out butt first, and it was folded like this coming out.
Yeah. Oh, wow. The butt came up first, and the legs were up.
Up like this,
and the legs came up. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it came out just fine.
So when that. So when that happens, then they require more space, right? Because it's like half the body is folded and it's coming out.
Actually, for a baby, the head is the biggest part.
Oh, the head is the biggest part.
Yeah, so the bum and the legs actually easier to come up, but the problem that people have with breech birth, one of the problems, is the arm getting stuck or the head getting stuck. Yeah, but I had already given birth once. So and they weren't, and these babies were smaller than the baby that I had already given birth to. And my breech birth was my easiest birth.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Like when the baby came out, sometimes people are pushing for hours, I only pushed probably 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 pushes and the baby came out. It was the easiest. It was hard, but it was the easiest of other births.
Wow.
Yeah. So I could have gone for a routine C-section, but actually I ended up with the quickest labor that I had with the twins.
Wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow, that's so crazy to hear all that. So your C-section, how long did it take for you to recover?
My C-section was, the actual C-section was bad, but the recovery was great. I have to admit.
Okay.
You know, praise the Lord. I think if my recovery was bad, I would have been like very, very depressed because I already felt like a failure. I felt very discouraged. I felt very violated of the things that happened to me in the hospital.
Can you imagine?
Because they were checking me. You know, like when they do a cervical check, they put their hands inside the fingers to see how much you're dilated, right? It's normal. It's a normal thing. But because my labor was so long and a bit, I guess, complicated because there wasn't progression and the baby's head was in a certain position, they had so many people come and check me that for me, I'm a very conservative person, you know? I'm a pretty modest person.
Yeah.
So to have that many people come and just like I know it was a medical thing, but it made me feel violated at the end. You know, it didn't make me feel comfortable and safe.
Yeah.
So, but the actual recovery was good. Yeah, I had to take some painkillers because the pain is pretty bad. But for a few days I took painkillers, but then it was okay.
Okay.
Is there a difference between epidural and painkiller?
So the painkiller, I mean, like, so after the surgery and I went home, I just took some pills.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, some pills every 4 hours or 8 hours to manage the pain, or else it'd be really, really painful.
Okay, so epidural is something that you inject to lessen the pain, right?
Yeah, they freeze it, like kind of. You lose the sensation of your hips and down, like your lower body.
Oh, okay.
They put a big needle in your back. Yeah, I'm very bad with needles too. And so, Lord, I don't want to get that big needle in my back. I was terrified of getting needles.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Because I was watching stuff online in YouTube and they said epidural's harmful effect will only to be discovered in the future, in many years to come. They don't even know what's going to happen eventually to mothers or babies. Is that the same thing that you're also aware of?
I don't know. I don't know about that. But one thing for sure is that because I feel like there are a lot of practices in the medical that are accepted medically, that we don't know the harmful effects until later. For example, they used to X-ray pregnant women instead of ultrasound, right?
Yeah.
Before they developed ultrasounds, I believe they were X-raying them, and that was awful. Like it resulted in a lot of terrible things, and then they stopped doing it. Only after a while, they found out, okay, every baby's being born with some problems, right?
Yeah.
So it takes time for all the problems to come out. So that's why I think it's always best when you're not in an emergency situation to reduce intervention, reduce any drugs, reduce anything unnatural.
Yeah.
Unless you really, really need it. Like, I don't want to say that I hate doctors and I'll never take any drugs ever, but I just think that it's used too much and is offered too easily when there are many women who can just have a natural birth. Like in Canada, or at least the places where I've been, the C-section rate is around 30%. Wow. There is no way that 30% of the births, the women, actually medically need a C-section. Yeah. It's not, you know, the number should be way less than that. In other parts of the world, like in certain parts of Europe, the number is way lower than that. Yeah. So in the epidural rate, the first time I gave birth, the epidural rate was like 90% at the hospital for first time mom. Wow. But like 2 generations ago or 1 generation ago, everyone gave birth without the epidural, right? Yeah. Everybody, because there was no epidural. Yeah. So for me, the epidural for me, it wasn't medically necessary because all it did was manage pain. It didn't actually
do anything.
Like, for C-section, they actually literally take the baby out and they save the baby's life if there's an emergency. But the epidural, it just basically makes it a bit more comfortable. I guess a lot more comfortable. Yeah. But it's important. I think knowledge is power. You need to do research. you need to pray about it because you don't know what's going to happen in your situation.
That's true.
And also, you need to have a good relationship with your doctor. You don't want to be fighting with them every single time you have an appointment.
Yeah.
So I remember being very anti-doctor for my twins, but when I met her and I talked to an older lady that had given birth 5 times, and she told me she's just doing her job. It's her job to recommend all these things. If you don't want them, then just understand that that's where she's coming from, and discuss with her. She's not your enemy, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe there are some awful doctors that are bad, right? But I try to be like, okay, we're gonna work together as a team. I try to explain my side, and then I'll listen to her side, and then I'll think about it. But it ended up like, most of what happened was pretty much what I wanted, and she was supportive. So.
That's good.
Yeah, I read your blog, and it sounded like she also experienced natural birth.
Herself?
Yeah. Well, no, she had twins like me.
Oh, twins.
But she had C-section for them.
Oh, C-section. Oh,
yeah.
But she did have twins.
Yeah, she had twins just like me. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I thought she had natural birth or something.
No, she ended up with C-section with them, but she said, if things had been right, I would have had a natural birth. So.
Okay.
She's very like supportive of what her patient wants.
That's good.
And you were very touched by how she said no, disagreeing with other faculties, saying she wants this. Yeah. Don't push her more than what she wants.
During my labor, like near the end, when things were getting really, really intense, I heard her saying to another doctor. The doctor was saying, let's give her the epidural line, the needle at least, just in case, right? Or give her the epidural. And then she told to the other doctor, no, that's not what my client wants. She doesn't want the epidural. Right. And when I heard that, I was really touched because she was on my side.
That's right.
Yeah. Even though some things happened that I didn't really plan for, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted. You can't expect everything to be flowers and daisies, right? Like everything you want. But I realized that she really understood what I truly wanted, and as long as it was safe, she was going to support that.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Wow, that's beautiful. God.
That's why I say like it was a miracle that I found her.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was a miracle that I found a doctor who knew how to deliver breech. Yeah. Because not almost all the doctors in Canada, the new generation, they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And it was. And the fact that she would support me even until the end, I was like, really, really, it touched me.
Yeah.
So when you say she knows how to deliver breech, does that mean she knows how to deliver vaginally, naturally? Yeah. Is that what it means?
And also babies who come out like not head first.
Okay.
So if the head doesn't come out first, that's breech baby.
But she's already very experienced doing that.
Exactly. So she was not trained in Canada. She was trained in the UK, but she worked in India, which people in India want vaginal births. She worked in Saudi Arabia and Dubai. So in these places, people want vaginal births because she told me the women there want many, many children. Like, they can have like 10 children. Wow. So if you have C-section, that kind of compromises things. You really want to deliver vaginally. So she said, I know how to do it. I've done lots of breech births before.
So
Unmedicated vaginal.
So she was already comfortable doing that, I guess.
Yeah, she said, I'm confident of my skills. I was like, wow, this is great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I feel like the doctors here in Korea, they have no idea, like, I don't think they would have experience, giving, like, breech babies or whatnot. Yeah, because I've heard of doctors who can, like, just feel your belly. They kind of, like, know what's going on, like older ones. But I think these newer doctors, they have no idea what's going on. They just know medically what to do, like the routine.
Yeah, she told me that the things that she did to deliver my second baby, like the second twin, she said that some of these things are becoming a lost art. Like, she's like, this skill is going to die with my generation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because the new generation is not learning how to do these skills.
Yeah.
Because they're doing so many C-sections for breech babies that nobody's learning how to do it properly.
That's
like,
true.
they'll do it vaginally anymore.
Wow.
So, like, since they don't know how to, they're going to keep doing C-sections, and then soon everyone who has a breech baby is going to have a C-section. Maybe. Maybe they'll start educating them.
Yeah, I hope they start educating, more people about it.
I mean, Lily kept saying doctors push for C-sections because it's more lucrative and it's quicker. Is that correct, based on your research?
And they do make more money, right?
I think it goes by the doctor. I'm not sure. I think it depends on the healthcare system as well. But I have read about that. I do believe that in many places and with many doctors it is true. Because I read that the at a certain time, for example, when their shift is closing, like when their shift is going to be over soon, the number of C-sections pop up because they're trying to finish the job and go home.
Yeah.
Right? It's not. It's true. And then, for example, before they go on vacation, there'll be a number of C-sections. Wow. They want to finish up their patients and be free.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
that's crazy.
I don't know. I can't. You can't judge every doctor and say, "Oh, you only care about money." But money is a very powerful motivator.
Yeah.
If you're going to be getting a lot more money, or you're going to be able to go home in 1 hour instead of 10 hours.
Yeah.
Some people who don't truly care about their patients, whatever, and they just think C-section is fine. They don't care about the long-term effects of a C-section.
Yeah, that's true.
Why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what is the...
That's why...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's very sad that nowadays, many women who want things naturally done, like myself, or many others, there's a whole army of them out there, they almost feel like they're fighting their doctor. They feel like they have to advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
They have to, it's like a sparring match. You go to your appointment and you're trying to say, I want this and this and this and this and this. And they feel like they have to push for what they want.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like that. The doctor is actually supposed to be serving you.
Yeah.
You're the client. They're working for you.
Yeah.
As long as everything is safe, they should try to support you in what you want.
That's true.
But you see, there's a lack of trust between pregnant women and their doctors now. So it's very sad because it puts. I think it's just a disadvantage for everybody,
Yeah.
Especially the pregnant woman, because she might not feel comfortable. If you don't feel like you trust your doctor, even in the hospital, you might be like, I don't want this, still in a negative mentality, an aggressive mentality, instead of relaxing and giving birth,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why some people are choosing to not even use a doctor anymore.
Yeah.
Because of this thing, yeah.
So what is the advantage of delivering vaginally in contrast to C-section?
Okay, so I'm not a doctor, but one thing that is coming out to light now is, first of all, C-section is major surgery. So the risks to the mother are increased, okay? When you do any surgery, you have to sign some papers that say, oh, we might cut you, we might cut your bladder, we might, whatever. The risk of infection goes up. Because anytime they're cutting you, there is a chance that they'll cut another part, that they'll puncture something that wasn't supposed to be punctured, right? Yeah. It actually happened to my neighbor. She, they cut the line between her bladder to, where she pees. And she had to get 2 corrective surgeries after the birth.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, or bleeding and stuff. So any surgery, there's risks. So the risk of C-section for the mother is increased because you're having major surgery. For the baby, the thing that I noticed, this is from my experience. When the baby passes through the vaginal canal, it gets seeded, or it gets in contact with bacteria, a culture of bacteria that are growing there, right? And that helps them to seed or introduce helpful bacteria to their gut. We know that the gut, now there's more and more research coming out how important the gut is for your health, your mental health, your physical health, and stuff. So God made the baby, this process so wonderful that every single step of vaginal delivery has a beneficial effect, right? So just that baby coming out, the fact that he came out of the vaginal canal, it's going to give him that bacteria to help his gut. So my son, my first child, who was born with a C-section, So he was introduced to antibiotics for sure through the IV line because I was on it for a while, and all the other drugs, and plus he never went through the vagina, so he had skin problems. He had really really bad skin problems. It was so frustrating. Not only that, he has some dietary problems where he can't eat. He had problem with wheat,
Wow.
so we had to go gluten free or wheat free
Wow.
because of him. Now my other children, well, my twins are still young, but my second child, my daughter, when she was born, she had just a little bit of a little rash, but it was nothing like my first child, and she has no problem eating anything. So I think that like because she passed through the vagina, like that helped with her gut bacteria. So I don't know. Only God knows exactly how much better a vaginal birth is in a C-section, but more and more research is coming out saying that if you can, it's best to have a vaginal birth, especially because that passage really is going to help the long-term health of the baby. My son has a very sensitive, like he had diarrhea for like almost an entire year because he has this problem with his gut. Yeah.
Wow.
But my daughter's never been. She only had like fever once. She had a cold here and there. That's it.
Wow.
Never been sick really.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, you should look into it, the gut bacteria thing.
Yeah, I think I did read something like that. Something is like a lotion covers your. So it doesn't affect your skin, affects your gut, right? Baby's gut.
Well, it goes on their, like basically their face goes through it, so it enters their body, like probably through their
it goes through into their body.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, it's not the gut that is going through the
It goes
vagina.
through,
It goes through the whole skin and it goes into the gut, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
amazing. That's what they believe. That's what happens. Yeah.
I mean, we weren't planning on like going to birth center, not going to the hospital at all, but we watched this video. The husband and wife were in the bathtub. It looked like so beautiful. I've never seen anything like that. Husband was with the mother and they were hugging, and the doctor was saying, "Yeah," he sounded like a Christian. God gave a baby with God gives the mother an ability to deliver a child. Why would you do any medical intervention when it's not even necessary? And it made perfect sense. Why would we do all kinds of other stuff when he's a creator, he's God? And there's gotta be a way that should come out naturally like all the other animals do. And we think we're so much smarter. And then we're doing all kinds of things and that create all kind of complications and problems later on. So we just discovered it in the YouTube channel. I think you discovered it, right?
The husband and the wife in the bathtub?
Yeah.
No, that was one of the promotion video for one of the birthing clinics.
Yeah, it was a birth center, and so we found a midwife figure who is a nurse who runs a birth center. So we've been listening to her, and ever since we met her, we decided to skip some unnecessary tests.
Or checkups.
Checkups. Yeah, you might have this problem and that problem, and she said, "Yeah, you can skip that. You can skip that. You can skip that. You don't need all that," because I don't want my baby to be exposed to too many ultrasounds either. How did you feel about the ultrasounds?
I am not that favorable towards ultrasounds, because it's just one of those things. I just don't know if, like they say, okay, there's some studies that some kind of weak studies that might say there's an increased risk of hearing problems, or there's some stuff, here and there that come up. But they're using it routinely. So for me, I feel like I'm not very extreme. Like some people might think I'm a little crazy, but I think I'm pretty balanced. An ultrasound, I don't think it's the end of the world, but I would like to reduce the number. So for example, with my first, I think I just had two or whatever. I just did whatever was requested. The second one, I did the second one where they checked all the body parts, because with my first one there was an abnormality. So I wanted to know, okay, is this baby normal or not? So I chose to do the first two, and they're not that like. Anyways, yeah. So, but with the twins, they want to do ultrasounds all the time, like because they're saying, oh, because there's like problems. If one twin becomes too big and this other one becomes too small, and there's some problems, right? They're hyperactive, like they're always like, oh, manage the risk, manage the risk. So I did more ultrasounds than I wanted, but because I was so tired of fighting, I didn't want to fight. I didn't want everything to be a battle, and I try to weigh the thing. Okay, you know what? I want to avoid certain interventions, but this is where having one ultrasound or whatever, I did reject a few. But near the end, when the babies were breech and they had to check for certain things to determine what kind of birth I was going to be able to do, then I was like, okay, fine, I'll do the ultrasound, you know? So yeah, I'm okay with, I don't like doing a lot of them, but I think it's not the end of the world to do a few, you know? But I would tell my doctor, I only want to do an ultrasound because it's medically necessary, right? Not because, okay. I think some people, like some places in the States, they're doing ultrasounds like every single visit, you know, and I just think that's crazy.
Yeah.
Or some people, they pay money to get an ultrasound just for fun.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, honestly, when the baby's born, you're going to look at that baby's face every single day.
Exactly.
Like,
what's the point?
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Can you tell her how many times we do in Korea?
So when you first go in, when your test shows positive, you go in. They'll do an ultrasound. Well, like the vaginal one, so you can hear the heartbeat and everything. So that's usually about 6 weeks, and then they want you to come in once a week. After 6 weeks, once a week up until 12 weeks, and they'll do an ultrasound every time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then after 12 weeks, so at 12 weeks they want to do like this X chromosome like test to make sure that your baby's normal or whatever. So, but we rejected that test. I think I guess it's to see if, because at that time I think moms can still choose to abort the baby if there's anything wrong with it. So the nurse midwife said, if you're planning on keeping your baby no matter what, there's no point in taking that test. So we just decided, okay, forget it. And then after 12 weeks, I think they want you to come in about once a month. Once a month after that, up until like 30, maybe like 28 weeks or 30 weeks. And then after 30 weeks, they want you to come in once a week again. So that's quite a bit of...
So how many times are we doing more than Canada, typically?
Oh, typically from my pregnancies, for a normal one baby pregnancy is 3 ultrasounds. One at the beginning to see when the baby is like to make a due date, to estimate the age of the baby. One in the middle to check the gender and the anatomy of the baby, to see if everything's there. Like I said, I think that one's pretty important for me. I felt like I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
The third one is to check the growth.
Check the growth.
Near the end. To see, okay, how large is the baby getting? Is the baby growing normally? But the thing is that there are other ways to check for growth, because those ones at the end in Korea are probably to check the growth.
Yeah,
because there's nothing really to check for.
Yeah.
The thing is that they can feel, like, you see your belly growing, right? They measure your belly from the outside, and they can tell that your belly's growing. So for me, it's like, you don't need an ultrasound
for that, yeah.
Unless you're having some problems already. That require ultrasound, but for extra monitoring. If you're having a normal birth or a normal pregnancy, and it's kind of ridiculous to say we need to check how your baby's growing every week.
Yeah, I interviewed a British medical doctor. She also said they would do only like 5 times. But when I heard from the doctor here, I'm just like, this is like all the time. And
that's insane.
one PhD person said ultrasound is just too noisy for the baby to handle. So I was thinking, this is madness, and it just sounds like people are just doing it to put it on the Facebook or something, or like to have them come more often or something. I'm just like, I mean, if a baby has a problem, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna open the baby, open the belly and like do any kind of like surgery or something? What in the world are you gonna do if you find any problem? That was my question. that I had.
You can't do
I think
anything.
in certain circumstances they do surgeries with the baby inside, but that's why I'm saying that's something major, you know.
Yeah.
But if your baby is normal, right, and they're just checking is the baby growing, like things like that. Yeah, you know, even in Canada, I think the government website says that they don't know the long-term effects of ultrasounds. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's believed to be safe, so that's why they say when it's not medically necessary. Even the government recommends that you don't do ultrasounds unless you need to. That's why we only do 3, unless you have twins and they want you to do more. But like what you're talking about in Korea, that's kind of insane. You know, if you ever think about the money, right?
It's crazy.
Every time you do a lift,
Exactly.
you're getting paid.
Yeah.
Every time you use their ultrasound machine,
Yeah.
they record it down and they're getting extra money.
That's
so unfortunately, it's just like certain other practices, like in other fields, you know. I won't mention them, but you just kind of think, okay, did I need that, or it's just their way of getting more money from the government, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
when I was just reading your blog, I was just so comforted knowing that you fought the same battle and you made it, and I was very happy about that.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know, we prayed a lot, and we discussed a lot of things. We had a lot of heated discussions about whether I should induce or not, you know, because there's all these things. Every time something comes up and they want to do this or that, then you have to think. It's not like, I don't think you should just be foolish about it. You shouldn't just be like, whatever, I'm not going to listen to anything they say. And like, if you're going to be like that, don't even go to a doctor. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even need somebody if you're not going to listen to anything they say.
Yeah.
But what I do is I listen to what they want to do. I research every single thing that they want to do, you know, and I look at the risks. I try to, as much as I can, look at the risks, look at whether it's necessary or not, in my opinion. And there's lots of studies out there too that you can look at. And evidence-based birth, that's a good website. Anyways, and then I decide where I'm comfortable at, you know. For example, some people, like my friend, she had a wild pregnancy, which means she did no ultrasounds, not even a blood test.
Wow.
Nothing. I said, you know what? I'm okay with blood tests. You know what I mean? Like, check my iron levels, check, you know, I'm okay with that, right? So it's about knowing what you're comfortable with. But you definitely have to do your research. Don't just say, okay, I'm going to do whatever they say. Unless you're at the end and there's like a serious emergency, you don't have time to research, right? That's why you do your research ahead of time.
Yeah, I feel like it's like medical dark ages these days. People don't even know what's going on, and people are just lying there or just doing whatever they are recommending you to do. And just doing more research about delivery and pregnancy made me just so humble to realize that I just don't know so much about what's going on. I have just accepted whatever they said. And I think doctors and patients need help from each other. But our gynecologist was very helpful and humble to respect whatever we were telling her. So we're very thankful that we can actually work together.
That's true.
Because also the midwife nurse also wanted the test to be done at the regular hospital. So we are actually working together.
Yeah. That's true. I actually had another question. So I know that in America, and I'm sure in Canada too, that there's, you know, like after the baby is born, you get certain kinds of vaccinations, like rubella or something, you know, like vaccinations that babies get. Like, did your babies get vaccinated after, or can you choose not to get them vaccinated?
So vaccines are a really hot topic. I probably don't want to mention exactly what my stance is like here, because it's a huge. It's people get very angry and stuff. But yes, you do have a choice. Remember, you always have a choice. They'll say like, oh, I had to do this, I had to do that. That's not true. Even with a C-section, nobody can force you to put you down and cut you open and force you. You always have a choice because it's your body. They make it sound like they come and and they tell you like you don't have a choice, and then you go yeah, right, and you sign the papers, but you always have a choice. Where I was, they gave a paper. They say these are the routine procedures we do after a baby's born. There are certain eye drops that they give. There's a vitamin K shot. There is a vaccination that they offer, and some other tests, like a hearing test and some other tests that they offer. And you say, and she gave me a paper, and I just checked off which ones I wanted and which ones I didn't want. And they were very supportive. Like, I gave them, and then they just accepted. They said, okay. They didn't push. They looked at the things I said yes to, and they did them. The things that and they did it in front of me.
Oh, okay, good.
My babies never left me. They were always with me.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it is like, but I don't know what it is like there. For vaccines, I suggest, so anything that is going to happen to you and your baby, you should research it and, like, from credible sources if you can. And think about it, because even when they were giving me like something after my twins, she was coming with something and said, okay, this is your this and this, and I said, what is it and why am I getting it? And then I told my nurses were nice, but I told her, you know what, I'm not trying to be a difficult patient. I asked nicely, right? But I did ask anytime they tried to do something, because I said, I want to know what is being injected in my body.
That's right.
I want to know what's happening. I'm not gonna just let you come with some clear liquid and just inject it without me even knowing what it is and why I'm getting it, right? So unless it's an emergency situation, you just don't have time for that, and you just have to trust them to save your life, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But in a situation where you can ask, and they would tell me. So that's why I think, I don't know, here it's there's a push for more patients' rights. I don't know how it is in Korea, if the patients are just expected to be submissive to whatever is offered.
Most people are like that.
But you are the one. It's your baby. They're not taking care of your baby after you take them home. It's true. Your daughter, and you're gonna have to deal with all the consequences or whatever happens to that baby in the long term, right?
True.
Whereas they say bye-bye and then move on to the next pregnant woman. So I think it's worth doing the research.
Yeah, it's true.
Not to be like so angry or like aggressive or fighting with them all the time. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying you have to know what you're doing. You have to have a certain level of trust. But at the same time, you have to realize that they're not God. They don't know anything. They don't know everything. The medical procedures are constantly changing.
Yes, that's true.
So the fact that they're changing all the time means that they're still learning and they don't know it all, right? So
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to do more research about that. Yeah, because I've heard, one of my friends say, oh, just like the vaccinations that they give in the beginning, that's okay, but any other vaccinations after, it's not okay or whatever. But I was like, oh, let me think about it some more and pray about it. Yeah, about the early vaccinations.
In terms of the age of vaccination, there are people, for example, who are anti-vax, where they don't believe in any vaccinations at all. Or some people who are like maybe halfway. But there's many people who choose to delay vaccination.
Yeah.
Because the newborn doesn't have a mature immune system.
That's true.
But the vaccines contain things that are meant to, I guess I don't know what the right word is, irritate or activate your immune system. That's how the vaccines work, right? The vaccine is supposed to work with your immune system, right? To make you immune to certain things. But the newborn doesn't have an immune system, really, right?
Yeah.
And there are also certain toxins that are in the vaccines. So some people choose to delay it. So they might say, I'm okay with the vaccinations, or I'm okay with some of the vaccinations, but I'm going to do them when the baby's a bit older and their body weight is bigger.
Yeah.
They're able to handle it better, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So it's something to think about, But that's, like I said, that's a really hot topic that people get really aggressive about, unfortunately.
It's true. It's very true. Wow, thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for answering all the questions for us.
Yeah, and I'll definitely start reading the book. I'm going to go buy it.
You have the PDF, right?
What PDF?
It's PDF. Oh, online, right? Available.
Oh, they have it on Kindle, right? I'll look it up.
Yeah, there's the different formats. You can get whatever you want.
Okay.
It's always good to get the real book, I think. I like real books.
Oh, okay.
But it's up to you.
I'll probably get the Kindle because it'll take forever for it to reach Korea.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll see.
I see.
So yeah, thank you so much, Angie, for answering all our questions.
Sorry, the questions were all over the place because we are two people.
No problem. I hope everything goes well with you. And I think the most important thing is to really pray.
Yeah.
Pray as every single decision that you have to make, you think about the risks, the benefits, and you pray about it and you discuss. I think it's important that the husband and wife are on the same page, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been very supportive of my desire for natural birth.
Actually, I didn't know anything about this, and I just did a little bit more research, and it's been very interesting.
Yeah, just things that didn't make sense is like, why do they like need to cut you or why he like because people who would share their birthing experiences, he's like, why would it like that doesn't sound natural, So even though they said they gave a natural delivery, but just a lot of things they didn't sound natural to him. So yeah, so that was let's go with natural birth, natural unmedicated birth. That's what I would want to do too.
Yeah. Well, you'll be in our prayer. Hopefully, it will go well.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. It was nice meeting you and hearing your story. Wow, now I have lots of things to pray about.
So you're not planning on having more, right?
No. Even these twins were a surprise.
I see.
Yeah. It was a difficult pregnancy. Yours is probably going okay, but with twins, it's very hard.
Yeah,
your body's.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I don't think I can do it again.
So
any child, any babies, no more.
So are you planning on writing a book?
No, not about this because I don't feel like I'm really an expert.
In writing.
In this field.
In this field,
I just have my experience and what I've led my decisions, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The anecdotes were very, very interesting.
Thank you. No, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all my experiences. I'm grateful that I even look back and I'm grateful for the trauma of the C-section, the bad C-section I had. I'm grateful for that because that helped me really have a passion to share about childbirth with my family, and that's why both of my sister-in-laws, they had great births first time, and I was like, Lord, I'm so happy
that's true.
have my experience.
Yeah.
So, it's a journey, and hopefully everything will go well. One thing I do, I guess one last thing I will say. Sometimes you get so caught up with this is exactly how I want things to be. You have to have some level of flexibility and some understanding that sometimes not everything may go the way you want it, right? Without saying, okay, just do whatever you want to me. So, because the Lord, it's in His hands. You never know. I prayed and I said, why did I have to go through that first birth experience? Why? I was so disappointed in myself and disappointed in God because we had prayed so much about it, right? But now I look back and say, you know what? I don't know why, but I have peace with it. And the twins, I said, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I'll end up with the C-section at the end. But you have to realize that not everything goes exactly the way you want it, but you have to give yourself the best shot at having the natural birth you want,
That's right.
Because sometimes I think you can be so rigid-minded, no, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, it just, it doesn't help you relax, it just puts you in the wrong state of mind.
That's true. Okay.
Anyways, my twins are up, so I have to go.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
thank you, Angie.
We held you for a long time. Thank you, Angie. We'll probably catch up with you many years later again.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.